This is Elmwood, Missouri, nestled in the heart of the Midwest along the winding banks of the Missouri River. The town is often called a peaceful haven, where time seems to slow down amid the rolling hills and cornfields. Even as new factories and shops sprout up, boosting the local economy, much of Elmwood clings to its old-fashioned charm, with brick-lined streets and family-run diners that haven't changed in decades. It was here, in the crisp autumn of 1925, while the nation buzzed with the excitement of the roaring 20s and the distant echoes of jazz, that an unassuming yet miraculous event unfolded for Thomas and Clara Benson, the birth of their second child, a daughter they named Eliza May. From her very first breath, Eliza grew and grew and grew until she became the tallest woman the world had ever known. Eliza passed away far too soon, at the age of 24 in 1949, and now rests in the quiet Elmwood Hills Cemetery beside her mother Clara and her sister Rose. Her simple granite headstone reads, Eliza May Benson, forever reaching higher. But even in eternal slumber, she towers in memory over those around her. Eliza was born on October 15, 1925, in the modest farmhouse on the outskirts of town. The doctor who delivered her reassured her worried parents that she was a robust, healthy baby weighing 9 pounds even. By 3 months old, she had ballooned to 25 pounds, her tiny limbs stretching longer than those of most toddlers. At 1 year, she tipped the scales at 50 pounds and stood as tall as a 3-year-old. Her parents watched in awe and concern as she outgrew clothes faster than Clara could sew them. By the time she was 4, starting kindergarten at Elmwood Elementary, Eliza measured 5 feet tall, her head brushing the door frames that other children ducked under without a thought. To the folks in Elmwood, she was just little Liza, the Benson girl with the sunny smile and endless curiosity. She played hopscotch in the schoolyard, helped her father tend the vegetable garden, and sold homemade cookies at the church bazaar. I remember the first time I really noticed something different about Eliza, recalled her neighbor, old Mrs. Harlan, in a later interview. It was summer, and she was out in the yard with her dollhouse, but that dollhouse looked like a toy for ants next to her. She was kneeling, but her shadow covered half the lawn. I thought, well, that's no ordinary child, but she was sweet as pie, always sharing her treats with the other kids. Eliza attended Elmwood Elementary, where her teachers had to improvise. They pushed 2 desks together to make one big enough for her, and she sat cross-legged on the floor during story time to avoid blocking the blackboard. I'm Eliza Benson. I'm 8 years old, weigh 180 pounds, and stand 6 feet 2 inches, she once said in a school assembly, her voice soft but clear. These girls here are my friends. We're all in 3rd grade. I like jumping rope, reading fairy tales, and helping Mama bake pies. When I grow up, I want to be a teacher so I can help kids like me feel normal. The other children clustered around her like chicks to a hen, marveling at how she could lift them onto her shoulders for piggyback rides. Despite her size, she was gentle, never roughhousing, always careful not to accidentally knock someone over. Her principal, Mr. Whitaker, later reflected, it was a challenge treating Eliza like any other pupil. She was bright, always raising her hand with the right answer, but her size made simple things hard. Fitting into the swings on the playground? Impossible. But she never complained. She was polite, eager to learn, and had this quiet determination. The kids adored her. She was like a big sister to the whole school. In the early 1930s, as the Great Depression gripped the nation, the term giant echoed through headlines, not because of Eliza, but due to a towering figure in entertainment, the wrestler known as the Amazonian Wonder, a 6'4" woman from Europe who toured vaudeville shows, lifting weights and posing with crowds. She was hyped as the strongest woman alive, her height exaggerated in posters to draw gasps. In 1933, a promoter in Kansas City heard about Eliza and arranged a photo op, thinking it would boost ticket sales. The Amazonian, proud of her stature, agreed to pose with the tall Missouri girl. But when 8-year-old Eliza stood beside her, the wrestler looked up in shock. Eliza was already 2 inches taller. The photos made the rounds in newspapers, dubbing Eliza the Little Giant of Elmwood. It was her first taste of public attention, and it left her blushing but intrigued. That same year, concerned about her relentless growth, Thomas and Clara took Eliza to the University Hospital in St. Louis. Doctors diagnosed an overactive pituitary gland, the small organ at the base of the brain that regulates growth hormones. It was pumping out far too much, causing her bones and tissues to expand unchecked. Surgery was considered but dismissed. The risks were too high for a child who was otherwise healthy, with no pain or developmental delays. Her IQ tested above average, and she was proportioned perfectly, just scaled up. As one doctor said, "She's a marvel, but let's let her live her life." So back to Elmwood they went, where Eliza resumed her routines, joining the Girl Scouts and the local 4-H club. She learned to knit oversized scarves and even helped build a treehouse that could hold her weight. By age 12, Eliza outgrew the family home's doorways, stooping to enter rooms. She attended Elmwood Junior High, then the high school next door. Classmates remembered her as the girl with golden curls and hazel eyes who could reach the top shelf of any locker without a stool. She was easy to spot in the halls, tall as a lamppost, but she'd blush if you teased her about it. The boys would dare each other to ask her to dance at school socials, and she'd giggle, her cheeks turning pink. But she was kind, never mean, even when folks stared. I never felt sorry for her. She was just Liza, my pal who could carry all our books in one arm. One teacher, Miss Evans, shared, "I supervised study hall when Eliza was a sophomore. She'd unfold her long legs under the desk, and her knees would poke out like tent poles. Writing was tricky. Her hands dwarfed the pencils, making them look like toothpicks. But her essays were thoughtful, full of dreams about traveling the world. She never seemed bitter about her height, just accepted it like the weather." Sports were a mixed bag. The basketball coach eyed her eagerly, but her parents worried about injuries. "We wanted to protect her," Thomas later explained. "Her bones were growing so fast, a fall could shatter something." Still, she joined the team for practices, gently tossing balls into the hoop from afar. Teammates nicknamed her Sky High Liza. But a sprained ankle during a scrimmage sidelined her, and she focused on academics instead. She excelled in history and literature, dreaming of college. Eliza graduated from Elmwood High School in 1943 at 18 years old and a staggering 8 feet 1 inches. It took 12 yards of fabric for her cap and gown, sewn by her mother and aunts. She was the tallest graduate in school history, her diploma looking like a postcard in her palm. Post-graduation, she enrolled at nearby Riverview College, a small liberal arts school with ivy-covered halls. She aimed for a teaching degree, inspired by her own educators. But winter ice made campus navigation hazardous. She slipped once, bruising her hip badly. Classrooms weren't built for her, desks too small, ceilings too low. After 2 semesters, she withdrew, her heart heavy, but resolve strong. Turning to business, Eliza caught the eye of a St. Louis shoe company, Regal Footwear. Her feet, now size 22, required custom boots, and the company saw potential. "When Thomas brought her in, we were stunned," said the owner, Mr. Hargrove. "We made special lasts for her shoes. At first, it was just practical, but her father suggested mild promotion. We created posters with her measurements and sent sample shoes to stores. They drew crowds like magnets." By 1944, Regal signed her to a contract. At 19, she measured 8 feet 4 inches, her shoe size 24. A company rep, young Jack Riley, traveled with Thomas and Eliza. "I'd scout towns ahead. We'd set up at stores, outside if the ceilings were low. Thomas would give a short talk about Eliza's growth, then she'd smile and shake hands. Lines lined up for miles. She was gracious, even when tired. Traveling wasn't easy. Hotels rarely had beds long enough. She'd sleep diagonally. Crowds sometimes pinched her calves to check for stilts, making her wince. That was the only time she'd get cross," Jack recalled, but she'd brush it off with a laugh. Eliza loved the adventure, seeing cities like Chicago and New York, tasting new foods. She collected postcards, dreaming of Europe. Home life remained sacred. The Bensons shielded her from exploitation. She had an older brother, Samuel, and younger siblings, Rose and little Tommy, all average height. No family history explained her growth. It was a fluke. Birthdays were family affairs, with cakes big enough for her appetite. At 21, she joined the local women's club knitting blankets for orphans. She adored children, often visiting schools to read stories, perching on the floor while kids climbed her like a jungle gym.